Welcome to Kingdom Mothers Rise Up, where I encourage and equip you to heal your heart and renew your mind so you can live the fully abundant life Jesus promised you. Let's go. It's time to move.
I want to cast a vision for what it means to rise up as a kingdom mother, whether that is your biological kids or spiritual kids. It's needed for women to rise up and take a place and have an impact. And we see that in stories like Deborah and Esther and the wise woman of Jael. We see that throughout Scripture, that God called women to rise up and fill a special place. Even Mary, he didn't bring his plan of salvation to the world without using women. I think that's important. I think that's key. And I think it matters in a lot more ways than we have maybe been led to believe. In order to step out and fill that call to rise up and that impact we're supposed to make, we need to be whole and healthy ourselves. I came from a place of not liking myself, not understanding myself, not seeing how God could ever use me or why he would want to and not partner with me, and why he would ever want to. But I wanted that relationship with him. I wanted to know how I could relate with him and how, I just wanted that relationship, wanted to be loved and known and be connected to that purpose. If what I'm describing sounds like what you need, then let me know so that I can be sure to reach out to you and stay connected and get your feedback on what would help it to be that place that you need right now. Welcome to this episode of the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up podcast. This is my final episode for season 1, and I'm going to be sharing how the movie Wonder Woman has been encouraging me in what it looks like to live as the woman God made me to be, and this whole idea of rising up as a mother. What does that look like? So in watching the movie, the first thing that stood out to me was that young Diana, who grows up to be Wonder Woman, is drawn to the training. And I don't know, I guess if you haven't watched the movie, then maybe it won't make sense, but I don't. I'll explain some of it, I guess. So she's on this island of women warriors. They call themselves Amazons, and they exist to fight and defend, defend mankind, but they're isolated on this island, just fighting and training, and they're not engaging with the outside world. And they were placed there by Zeus and given a special weapon that is Zeus left them with a special weapon to defeat Ares, the god of war. And so as a child, Diana hears these stories over and over again of this is why we're here, and when the time is right, we have this weapon that will defeat this god, and this is what we're all about. And as a child, she escapes from school and other things that she's supposed to be doing to go down and watch the warriors train, and even sneaks out at night to have special training sessions. And so it just hit me that that pull to, as if you listen and are part of the group, the rising up isn't just to be a better mom. That's a huge part of it. But it could also be the Lord has laid on your heart a ministry or a book or so many other things that he could be calling you to. And like you can't get away from it. You keep thinking, oh, I don't have time for that, or that's not the season, or all these different things, but you can't get away from it. You keep getting drawn back to it and keep, like Diana, keep getting caught kind of doing what you're not supposed to in someone else's eyes. And that could even be in your own eyes. But your spirit knows what you were made for. And she knew, just even as a child, that she knew she was made to fight. And not because she wanted to fight. Like, it's just what she was made for. And I think we see that as mothers. You know, you hear about the mama bear coming out. Like, God literally put that in us. And we digging into that in Genesis 1:28, where he created woman to be man's partner. That idea of the mama bear is actually in that Hebrew word that unfortunately has been translated and then interpreted to mean something much more docile and innocent and fragile. So we'll be digging into that in the group and in the coming season of the podcast too. Because he told me that my word for the year was warrior. And then I learned that, like, that mama bear feature that he designed into us is actually part of that word, or it's a phrase actually in Hebrew that's in Genesis 1:28, and it has that mama bear idea in that word. So I'm really excited to dig into that. And then also, as it pertains to mothers, like Diana's mother in the movie doesn't want her to know who she is. She doesn't want her anywhere near fighting. She just loves her more than anything and wants to keep her safe. And she feels that the best way to keep her safe is to keep her ignorant and innocent. And Diana's aunt, who happens to be the general, the one that is training all the Amazon warriors, has a very different approach of saying, there is a battle coming for her, and we need to prepare her for it. And it takes years. It takes until Diana is almost grown, or basically grown, for her mother to finally say, yes, you need to train her harder than you have ever trained anyone before, because I finally see that you're right. Like, this battle is coming and she needs to be ready. And that's the spirit that I raised my kids in, and that I would encourage you to raise your kids in. Battle is coming. There's battles here, but there are battles coming for them. And instead of trying to shield them and pretend like those battles don't exist, how do we prepare them now for when those battles come? And so those things, I kind of like reminded me of just my introductory podcast of, you know, why am I doing this? What's my vision? What do I see in Rising Up? And kind of expanding on that. So that, and the first episode has the most downloads, so we'll say that's the most popular one. And the second most popular is Use What's in Your Hand. And that episode, I talk about David going up against Goliath and how he was offered the king's armor and he was offered the king's weapons. But what made him successful was that he just took what he already had and what he already knew. And I talk about how there's things in your mothering that might feel like you're just out with the sheep. Like, why am I here and what difference is this going to make? But it is this season that can be preparing you for the battles that are coming, for the giants that are coming. And I talk about some different examples from my own story of, like, I was just doing what I felt I needed to do to be the best mom I could be. And now 15, 20 years down the road, I can look back and see that was God preparing me for other things. And the third most popular episode was being present as a mom. It was an interview with Rhiannon. And talking about how important it is as a mom to know the voice of God and then begin to teach your children the voice of God also. And just knowing his voice and knowing who he says you are over what the enemy tells you. And like watching Wonder Woman and watching her interact with the enemy. I said, there's so much more there that I want to dig into. But she knew who she was. And she knew, well, to an extent, she knew who she was. She didn't fully know who she was. But she had a glimpse of who she was. And she knew her purpose beyond a doubt. And she was completely committed to her purpose. And even though the enemy knew who she was and knew that she was destined to take him out, he didn't take her out before she understood who she was. He tried to win her over. And first he tried to win her over with appealing to her nature and the things that she believed in, of like promising this beautiful, peaceful paradise because she's fighting for peace. And when that didn't work, he's tried to win her over. Like, he continued to fight her. But then when he saw an opportunity where she was hurt and she was mad, he tried to use that to win her to his side. And so even though he like knows he's defeated, he's not going to believe he's defeated. And I think our enemy, like, I just think that was a really good picture of our enemy. He knows he's defeated from the beginning of time. Like, God told him right at the very beginning that he would be crushed. But he still keeps fighting like he can win. And he still keeps trying to win people to his side and fight with him instead of against him. And obviously he will until Jesus comes back and finally, I don't know what that's going to look like. But for us to know the voice of the Lord and to know what he has called us to so firmly that we don't buy into the enemy's traps and his offers of his way of achieving peace or his way of dealing with our pain, dealing with our anger, which also ties into what was the fifth most popular episode, was understanding the schemes of the enemy. And the particular one that I talked about in that episode is how when we are hurt, he will come with an offer to fix it. Excuse me. So he will come with an offer to fix it when we've been hurt or wronged, and often when we're very young. And if we don't recognize that, then it's like, oh, well, that sounds like a good thing. Yes, I'm going to do that. And then that agreement gives him authority to harass us and tempt us and bring division and all kinds of things. So understanding how he works, just making such a huge impact on how we can function. And then that's the fourth most popular episode, was The Emotions Don't Drive. And just talking about how God gave us our emotions. They are a part of who we are, but they're not in charge of who we are. Our spirit-led self is what's in charge. And what does it look like to actually live that out? So encourage you to go back and listen to those episodes again, or listen to them the first time if you haven't listened to them yet. Leave me a comment or a question. When you're thinking about rising up, what is it that you're rising up to? what is it that you're rising up for? You know, for me, it's my kids, it's kingdom, it's Jesus getting what he deserves in a kingdom here on earth, in a bride that's whole and knows who she is and is functioning like she's supposed to function. Share with me, like, what is that for you, and what's getting in the way of you rising up and stepping into what God is saying for you? Is it areas that need to be healed? Is it skills you don't have yet? Is it tools you don't know how to use? Just let me know. You can always message me if it's something you don't want to share publicly. And just remember that your healing heals generations, and I will see you in the group.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up podcast. I'm blessed to have you here. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can join us in the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up Facebook community. When you're ready for more support, I have the Heart Doodling with Jesus monthly membership, periodic group coaching, and one-on-one personalized coaching as well. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.